Is it working? Is the sound working? Is the sound working? Okay, good. To main. Yes, like this. Okay, let's start with the question about the IPOs, because I think a lot of people, a lot of you guys, you don't understand that we're not bound to the market, or like we're not bound to bringing the IPO into the DEUS market by building a bridge. We can also create markets that will never be swapped to a stock. For example, we could provide a market where it is like Ripple wins at a SEC fight or SEC wins. And this will never be wrapped to a stock. So please don't limit your imagination what we can do by what you've seen before. So we don't, if we want to do a SpaceX IPO, this doesn't mean that there must be a real SpaceX stock anytime. We can just speculate in the meantime. We can just say, okay, we speculate that there will be someday maybe a SpaceX IPO, but we want to trade it now. And it doesn't matter if there is an IPO planned or not. We can make, we can basically create tokens for everything and trade them. That's the power of the DEUS ecosystem. So you can have like you have like the whole ecosystem, and then you have hundreds, thousands of automated market makers attached to that system. And some of them will get a bridge eventually one day. Some of them will always be their same or their own little bubble. So we don't need to follow certain rules when we create our markets. This is something that investment banks do, okay? Where you have like basically what Coinbase is doing, they need to file, they need to pay millions of dollars just for the lawyers and for all the paperwork, and then there is an investment bank, and then after years of begging and please, we want to do this, after years of filing and filling out forms, someday, eventually, you will get an IPO. That's the how it's done in the real world. And with DEUS, we will, until now, it is still in our control, like the dev and the devs and the DAO. We still control which IPO is listed, but only eventually until we develop the contracts and a user interface in a way so that any user, together with all users, can vote on deploying a market. And even if you're saying, okay, like you can create a market, and it, because it's not attached to the ecosystem, to the whole ecosystem, you can create any market. You can create any market. Anyone can create any market if it's going to be implemented into the ecosystem. That's something that the community needs to vote on. But the idea is to let anyone create any market, because that's how it should be done. Of course, we always need to protect the whole ecosystem for people that just want to profit somehow from that by creating a market and tricking the system. But when you isolate the markets, you can create everything. So it doesn't matter when people think SpaceX IPO would be a way better idea than anything else, then let's go for it. Can you explain this whole thing for an idiot? What whole thing? What whole thing? Like creating a market or DEUS as a whole? Uh, it works basically like this. So it works like this. Currently it works like this. So we go here, you compile code, and then you deploy it. And this process will later be done automatically. So you're going to you go to a website. Basically, we will add it to the app. So maybe somewhere here we can make a website, call it create, and then you will have a similar user interface like here. You can tweak around what you want. You can write a proposal, what it is, and then you can create the market, and then you can post it into the Telegram chat and can say, hey guys, I created a market for betting on the next football game. Yeah. And then people can buy it and people can speculate on it. And in the end, okay, there will be different kind of contracts, like a betting contract where you have basically two outcomes, or an IPO contract, or somehow a future contract. There will be different, like an IPO contract will be always uh, at the end transferable to real stock, an IOU contract, and a future market will just be a random market for something about the company without the need of bridging it later, or like some bets where you say, okay, Ripple wins, SEC wins, and then people can buy one of the two things. Yes, we will make it so it's super easy. So basically, you can take a kid from school and tell him, hey, you want to create a market, and then he creates a market. That's how we need it. And of course, it should be isolated, and everything should be clear for the user so he doesn't run. Uh, he doesn't run. Look, guys, this has nothing to do with oracles, okay? Let's skip the oracle talk for in 15 minutes. Um, Everyone can create a market, so we can just take a school kid and he creates a market, and it will be isolated. It will have certain rules, so we all agree on the rules before we create a category. Every category has, like, when you create a market inside of a category, it has the same rules as every other market created in that category. And if you want to create a new category, that's when the developers and we as a whole come in together. But then afterwards, we are basically you can create any market inside of that category. Um, like we pay 155 in Coinbase, price is now 150.50. Of course, price can go below the fixed price. Um, Insiders can be exposed to their own stocks. Um, like everyone, it's Ethereum is free for everyone, so you could answer the question yourself. Uh, I mean, if you change IU token to something, so we are only speculating the price before IPO and after it. Yes, you can lose money by speculating, always. Um, yeah, this decentralized sports betting could be a thing. Um, so companies can in the future create their own stock in DEUS instead of waiting for approval in a stock exchange. Yes, yes. Yeah, staking the IPO is a good idea. Otherwise, I wouldn't have launched it, Sebastian. If I launch something, you can always be sure that I thought about if it's a good idea before I launched it. So yeah, there are some people that just do what like. They just do everything, and they are doing pretty well. Um, so after the launch, the IU could even go below the static price. No, no. Um, it's basically like this. If the IPO fails, like we do it like this, the price is static and there is a non-static curve. And when the IPO fails, the price can go below the static price. So yeah, there is a risk attached. There is a risk attached. This is not free money, guys. Okay? Someone obviously lied to you when he said this is free money. Uh, there is always a risk attached when trading some futures. And of course, the price can go below because basically I will write tomorrow in my blog about it. But look, first of all, the bridge will have the same limitations as every wrapped stock. Okay, so there will be caps, there will be fees, there will be a pushing from the system to keep the long and short ratios balanced. And of course, the IPO could fail. IPO could fail itself. Um, so there will be no bridge if there is no IPO. Um, and of course, you must also consider that you could buy basically higher. You could buy a price higher than the actually IPO. And another thing that I wanted to uh, express is, yeah, I think that's it. Limitations as wrapped stocks, long and short needs to be balanced. IPO could fail. Uh, fees, mm, yeah. So there are certain risks. We are working on getting a pop-up that declares that. But for now, I will declare it in my blog that I write. I will be writing. So for all future IPOs, it's basically the same. There will be a static phase, and then we will have like a 30 minutes to 60 minutes time, and afterwards the market maker starts. So that's how future IPOs will be done. And of course, there will also be like a time set when the IOU contract is basically expiring. So yeah. And afterwards, after the contract expired, the static sale price will be gone. So there will be a bonding curve that basically also goes to a lower level than the static sale. No, tomorrow we will have a like when we launch, we will have just a fuck. That was an alpha. When we launch, there will just be immediately the bonding curve. There will be no static sale. Okay, it will immediately. It can immediately rise, and from what I think, it it will rise more drastically than in Uniswap. We need more advertising for the IPOs, right? It's normally limited whitelist. Um, look, Bubble Gummer. decentralized systems are decentralized and open. So it means no one is restricted from using it. This is the whole idea of a decentralized market. So I think in the moment when there is really like the actual people that own the companies are doing insider trading on the DEUS ecosystem, like we don't need to be we like all of you inside of the live stream and me included, we don't need to give any thought or energy about how this could affect the DEUS ecosystem. Because at that time, DEUS will be so huge that, yeah, I don't think you guys will still be in the live stream every Sunday. That's a fact. If if it happens that really like institutional and their like the company owners are trading on DEUS, do you really think that there is like how much would the market be at that point? Like just guys write something in the chat now. How do you think when Mark Zuckerberg is doing insider trading on DEUS with his own stock, how big will the market cap of DEUS be? Do you still think that there is like when there is 10 trillion of market cap, like that there is a risk attached in any way of the system being somehow unstable if it's 10 trillion market cap? So like yes, yes. So you always need to consider like before you like when you theorize in the future, it's always good to understand, okay, when we are at that point in the future, what would that mean to the system? So yeah. Another thing that I wanted to discuss with you today, uh, when I was running earlier, and then I had the thought. I also wanted to write it in my blog, but I didn't find the time yet, so I want to do it now. So look, currently the market is somehow like this. So we have the like, imagine this is the crypto market, okay? And let's let's say this is Ethereum in general, okay? Okay. So currently what we still have is the following. We have the crypto market and then we have the normal market. And then we have, for example, something like Binance, okay? And they are somehow connecting this. Like so you need like Binance or Kraken or like, and this is like the world where the US dollar resides and the euro and makes basically also stocks. And then inside of ETH you have something like Uniswap where you can trade inside of ETH. And you have those exchanges basically on top of the network and everything is on top of the network. And but somehow the real world doesn't work like this. So it's not that you have like the system and everything is built on top of it. So the real world you have it's more like this. So you have like a center and let's say okay this is like maybe the Federal Reserve, okay? And then you have like rings and everything is flowing from inside to outside and from outside to inside. And instead of having those this ecosystem with all of the things built on top, what DEUS is trying to achieve is like creating that base in the middle, okay, where you can always come there, create a market, and it flows from there to the outside. And you can basically create every market. And if it grows and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, there is more and more and more and more layers on the outside that DEUS could be supporting in the future. For example, like right now we started with Coinbase, okay? So now we are giving users the opportunity to trade Coinbase IPOs or stocks. Then we have the S&P 500, okay? So it's very narrow in the way of stocks, but as the collateral grows and grows and grows and the user base grows and grows and grows, we can also like there is also the idea still to create a stablecoin, okay? And it's backed by the demand and backed by the use of the system. And it's an algorithmically backed stablecoin, somehow like ESD or DSD. I'm I'm so amazed like how like 3 months ago I was we were like talking to the like in September a lot of people were like we were discussing with all of them like rebase and how a stablecoin could be working in a different way where you have only positive rebases and no negative rebases, and I also wrote a blog about it, and absolutely no one had the slightest clue like what the fuck I'm actually talking about. And now there are two free projects that completely took off that use the same mechanics, and suddenly everyone is like, "Whoa, you need to do, we need to do a stable coin. We need to do this. We need to do a stable coin like this." So I'm pretty like I think it's cool. So now we have a proof that it works. When we built it into DEUS, there are not a million people asking like, "How should this work? How can this work? Will this ever work?" So yeah, but the thing is with DEUS, like let's talk a little bit about for example ESD or DSD. While you have like in their systems you have like this 30 days expiry dates on 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 your coupons, and in DEUS this will be way different because like look, the normal economy it wouldn't work if you have like a 30 days expiry date on your like if you're not repaying like it the system how I think it's too brutal in some way with 30 days expiry dates, and you also have to be you have to have like a base layer of income or somehow uh, a base layer of uh, demand for something which could help you through the times where like there's basically no demand on your stable coin, and it you still need to hold its peg. So yeah, this could be I think with an exchange at the center where there is a certain demand, because look, when when are stable coins popping, like when are they like dropping a lot, it's mostly in times where there is high volatility. um, then also people are like selling their stable coins to get into high volatility markets or maybe get completely out of them. So, and in times of high volatility, you also have a lot of fees collected on an exchange. That's why Bitfinex and Tether is working so good. Like they printing 200 millions every week, and it works great for them. It's because of the demand of the exchange that is like the base layer of their operations. And I think there is also the same things in the normal economy where you have like base layers of demand for your stuff or for your currency. So yeah. Yes, yes. Um, but yeah, they I see the same problem, and 30 days is somehow short. Yeah. Um, it doesn't like look. It doesn't matter if humanity is ready or not. It doesn't matter. It was never like this that some were like running around and asking, "Are you guys ready for the light bulb? Are you guys ready for electricity? Guys, are you ready for the internet? Guys, are you ready for cars now?" No. Uh, it's not that the people need to be ready. You need to be innovate. You need to innovate the space. You need to create something, and the people will adopt. It's always like look, there is 1% there is 1% in the world of people. Maybe it's 1 to 10%, okay, that are living on the outside of the like population, not living outside of the population in a way of like living outside of the city or being pushed away from society, but it's the 1 to 10% that think completely different. They think completely different than the rest, and for them it's just not normal. For me, I think for me, for example, it's not normal that we have governments, that we have banks. I just don't think it's like this is not a normal state a society should be in. I think it's completely uh, it for me it sounds like a past story that you tell your children. Oh, you remember for 10,000 years ago we had like countries and there were borders and we were living on one planet. Uh, so there is always a small percentage that thinks that those things are they just don't make sense. And then of course there's 90% of the people that think only this makes sense and everything else is completely like maniac thoughts, or you're just insane if you think about something like that. The normal people, if you talk to them, is like hey, look, governments, it's just it's just a stupid idea. They will come up with questions like, oh, if you have no government, how will you do this? How will you do that? How should this work? How should that work? Or how can we make like all of those questions, they don't mean anything. It's just because you're in your mind are conditioned to think that we need governments. And you and your mind are conditioned to think that we need governments for this or for that. No, it's not like this. Without governments, they, they, no, no. Look, if you have a free private city, there will be no stupid or weak people at all. It is mostly the, it's mostly vice versa. So we think governments provide weak people food, and in the end, it's completely the opposite. Because of the governments, we have those people without the food that we now think we need the governments for to give them food. If you're like, as long as you're inside of the box, you will never be able to see outside of the box. You need to go outside of the box in order to see what I'm talking about. So I think even Buddha said this. And in the end, having a private city without governments where you have certain like entities that are competing against you, okay? Like we have it right now. Look, okay, you really want to know it, so yeah, I will explain it now to you. Like, look, Tokes, you're completely like your thoughts are completely centered around the world where governmental control is a monopoly, okay? Because we are conditioned to think so. Why? Because otherwise we would maybe think of creating a system without government. So look, okay, so let's say you have a government, okay, and they have completely monopoly on legal on all the legal things and all the execution of the legal things, okay? Okay? So they have the courts, and they have the police, okay? So they are making the laws and they are making the rights. So what do you do when you're not satisfied with how the police treats you, or when you're not satisfied like how some legal things are done? What are you doing? And what are you doing? Yeah, and what are you doing when the legal, like when there is even like a combination of all governments that are now dictating the legal system of all of the world. So you only have one government doing all the decisions, and that government has complete monopoly over everything. Um, like, what do you do when you're not satisfied? What do you do when you're not satisfied with that? Like, okay, let's make it easier. Let's go to Amazon, okay? And imagine you're not satisfied. You're not satisfied with a product, okay? They're selling. Um, what are you doing then? You're basically choosing another. You're choosing another website. You're choosing another company. You're choosing another service. You're choosing another competitor. And when you have competitors, everything gets better. So that's what we're striving for. That's the reason for DeFi. That's the reason for cryptos. That's the reason for everything we're doing here in that space. Exactly this. So the one who said, let's focus on DEUS and DeFi, this is what DEUS and DeFi is about. It's about creating competition for the normal financial industry. It's about creating competition, so they need to improve. Otherwise, they are losing customers. Because that's in the end what you are when you're living in a country, you're a customer of that country. You need to see it like that. And when you're not satisfied, you cannot change it because there is a monopoly. So with crypto, you can now change this. You can now invest into a certain shitcoin because you think this will be the revolution that changes the world. Before that, before that, it wasn't possible. Baffleman, can you set expectations on what we will see in the next few days, weeks, months? There is a there is a certain here is a in the Telegram chat there is a thing where I can also post it here in the chat now, but you will always see there is always the current updates. I don't know, like how can I describe it? Yes, current roadmap. It's all it like from now on, it will always be there. Okay, there will always be a roadmap. Like okay, and there will be never a timeline. Okay, there will always be a roadmap, but there will never be a timeline. We decided this internally. Otherwise, the developers, they're just like, I'm maybe a person who's not interested in anything else, but we need to give our like developers a space where where they enjoy working at DEUS, okay? And having no timeline is one requirement for this. Having a timeline means stress and potentially also means death, because stress means death. And so we don't want this, okay? We don't want our developers to die. So there will be no timelines anymore. We will have a yes. We will do it in a way so that you will always be updated. You will always know, okay, like look, this is the next thing that DEUS is launching. And based on how fast they launch all of their other stuff, this means that this is probably ready in 2-3 weeks. But then everyone has like his own idea in his mind, and we're not setting every expectation on one day, and then everyone inside of the team has a lot of stress working to get to that date, and in the end, maybe he experiences a problem that he didn't thought of before, and based on that problem, he gets more stress, and based on the stress, he is even less capable of finding the problem, and it's a death spiral. Okay, it's absolutely a worst case. What we can do, and I will tell you now how we can do it, guys, is like we develop it, okay, and after we develop it, we tell you it's ready in a week, or it's ready in 2 weeks, or it's ready in a month, or it's ready in a year after we finished it. But we can also finish it and tell you, hey guys, it's ready tomorrow. So where is the point of having a timeline if it just means for you that you need to wait longer? Okay? That's basically, you can choose by having a timeline, but it means you're waiting 6 months longer. Or we can do it like this, that we don't have a timeline, and when we're ready, we announce it 24 hours before, and you have the time to think about it. Yes. No timeline needed, yes. I also think it like this. But a roadmap is cool, knowing, okay, these are the next steps. Okay, okay, okay. We need to invest in the crypto to be able to afford a private army. No. For the purpose of calculating the price of DEA for the ratio calculations used in the balancer pool, should I use the price as shown from DEA USDC or DEA DEUS pool? Look, lab free. You don't need to think about this in a way so you're like breaking your head. Okay? So if you're 99% right with how you did it, you're fine. If you're 95% right with how you did it, you're fine. If you're 96% right with how you did it, you will also be fine. If you're 50% somehow you match somehow something, probably you're not right, okay? So try to be more right than you're wrong, and you're good. When you're thinking about this 10 minutes, you're already good, okay? I promise you. If you just do it in a way that how I presented the percentages, it doesn't matter if you're 1% above or 1% below the value. You don't need to be exact at that value. How about the things you wanted to talk about? What did I want to talk about? I think I talked about everything. Maybe we can talk about the oracles a little bit. Um, uh, how do I feel about 1 inch? Uh, it's cool. I think it's cool. Yeah. So about the oracles. So there will be, if any one of you guys studied the roadmap, so we will basically do it in a there will basically like 3 phases of oracles. So the first one will be a multiple nodes, multiple node, but centralized. Means multiple nodes means we are setting up multiple nodes. Like people that we choose set up multiple nodes. There will be security experts involved for setting up the node. At that point, okay, when you have multiple nodes, maybe I explain it a little bit more. When you have multiple nodes, okay, like um, the oracles are basically working like this, okay? So you have like those are computers, okay? This is like a server. So this is basically node 1, set it up by someone, node 2, set it up by someone, node 3. What the fuck? So you have node 3, okay, then you have node 4, and they are all like casting the price. They're all casting the price, and at that point, it's basically like this. The node has a wallet, okay, inside, and a private key, and he signs that message with the private key. So the system knows, okay, that private key is owned by node 3. So all of the when there is a price signed and the price is off of the other prices, it will not be used. So this system, how I just described it, is exactly like Chainlink. Like Chainlink is doing it. You can check it here. You can check Chainlink price feeds. And so basically we're somehow building a system that is similar to Chainlink. It's not, you see, like this. So they have like this different nodes that are like partners of them. They set up the node themselves, and then they send the price, and it's updated. So the first centralized system that we use will use a similar system. The reason why we don't use Chainlink is, or like why we don't use only Chainlink is because, like, look, if we want to bring 25,000 stocks to the blockchain in the next 3 months, we cannot rely on Chainlink who need like 2 months to create, to set everything up for like 10 stocks. So based on that, we would need 2,500 months to come to 25,000 stocks. You see, like Chainlink is doing a pretty good job when you need like general data, but it's because it's like a general data provider means that you are telling them, okay, we need price feed for that, and then they are building it. But they have a lot of other price feeds or things that they're working on, so they're not solely focused on that one thing. So, but what we need is a very narrow. We only need the price of 25,000 stocks, and we need that price live all the time. So you're not going. It's the same like imagine you have someone who is building, yeah, someone who is building houses, and yeah, maybe it's not a good idea, but you get it, okay? So you have someone who is doing a very broad thing, but you only need a very tiny thing out of that broad uh, market he's covering. You only need a very narrow niche of data. So you're better by building it yourself, because until someone who is general working on that, it will take a lot more time. So validator scrapes a price and writes the price to an array in ETH contract. Yes, yes. And then we will do it in the next step. We will decentralize the oracle on Ethereum mainnet in a way that like how BrightID is doing it. So there will be basically, you will have a public node system, everyone can run a node, and when he casts a price, there will be a double check by the whole node system. So there will be 2 transactions. And we also have some other ideas how to secure this even more. And then the third phase would be a completely layer 2 solution where you have a staking network on a layer 2 plasma chain or something else, and they are validating the price all the time, constantly. And then when someone casts a query, it gets sent to the Ethereum network. Aronsim, it's not like scraping. We are using APIs for that. Yeah, so there will be staking going on with DEA and DEUS in some ratios. Or maybe you can make a DEA node or a DEUS node. Yeah. Probably we will do more DEA than DEUS because DEUS is needed for the future market. Probably it will always be balanced out. Like guys, look, if you ever had the feeling you're you should buy one currency more than the other, don't think like that. Any roadblocks? What is a roadblock? Any roadblocks so far? I didn't understand it. How about RenVM to onboard real BTC? Like, isn't RenVM doing this? So, yeah, RenVM is doing this. Yeah. Baffleman, can you please explain what you mean? So yeah, I think like especially the Oracle Layer 2 solution is something that I'm very interested in. I'm super interested in it. Because you could basically have a layer 2 where you have a constant on layer 2. Yeah, Baffleman, we just announced that the Coinbase market maker is ready, vaults are ready, stocks will be ready very soon. It isn't set yet, okay? So you basically have a layer 2 and the prices are and they're all connected to an API. There's the layer above the layer 2 and it's it's constantly streamed. Like all market of the any issues in the development or problems? No, absolutely not. We just shifted our focus from Coinbase to from stocks to from launching the vaults to launching Coinbase first and then having the opportunities with the IPOs. Like development is currently looking like this. So we created the IPO contracts. Okay, so we can reuse them every time. So we can basically with that one contract we can make 10,000 IPOs and vaults are 99% done. Stocks buying and selling is and this is for like 25,000 stocks is done. Okay, so everything is ready. We will probably launch every week a big new thing in the next weeks. Every weekend there will be one big launch. Some until like February. Then everything should be launched. Yeah. Like like we were already on testnet with the vaults. It was already ready. You all saw it. You tested it. You made like UI, we had like a UI bug report. The only thing why we didn't launch it again was because we're ready we didn't needed it again on testnet. So that's why we didn't launch it again after we changed the server. No, I cannot share the final share of allocation of the balancer pool, please. Let's wait until, because now we're launching the DEUS Eve pool and there is maybe some changes, and I realized, like, look, at the end, like, I tell it to you, like, before maybe we need to change something, and the only thing when I tell it to you before means there will be 10,000 questions about it until we are finally at the point where we launch it. So yeah, if you're unsure about something, just relax and understand that I will inform you prior to the launch what you have to do. I'm always like, it's always my responsibility to explain to you, like, every time before a launch, like 24 hours, 48 hours before, I sit down and I ask myself, like, what questions will the people have when we launch this, and what do they need to know now? And then I write a blog about it, and I pushed it out before the announcement, so you have some time to think about what you're doing now, like 2 to 3 hours, and yeah. So that's how it will be, and until then, just chill, because everything can always change until we launch it. Because maybe some things needed to be changed because they didn't make sense. So yeah. But 24 hours before launch, everything is already set. So there are no big changes anymore. Yeah. Good. Good. Tom, are you in the live chat? Um, Good. Please tell us more about the financial NFTs. What financial NFTs? Can you share a final? Yeah, no, Sebastian. Did we get enough votes for Zapper? I don't think like the Zapper votes actually, like, they mean a lot. They mean a lot to us and the community, and to me especially personally. It means a lot to me that you guys vote on this. But I think for the Zapper developers, it's not like they're like, okay, if something gets 100 votes, uh, we launch it, and if something gets 99 votes, we don't launch it. So yeah, I think when we have more votes than everything else, we are somehow maybe destined to be uh, implemented earlier. But we should just vote as much as we can. I think 100 votes is very, very uh, tiny compared to how much people we are in the Telegram chat and how much people are daily asking questions in the Telegram chat. I'm pretty sure there are 200, 300 people, separate people asking questions every day, but they didn't vote. So, yeah. But I'm very like positive about that at some point this will completely change. So there will be way more people inside the DEUS community actually creating DEUS instead of asking questions about DEUS. Yeah, we can also tag DeFi Dead. Um, Good, good. Yeah, so about the layer 2 solution, like you basically is you can have like a system where why is it, like you have like constant streams of data, and you have like bridges, and every data you stream was the data you streamed was, but because that's basically the problem. Okay, you have a problem that you have an API, okay, and the API itself is verified. Okay, like the data source you're using, they are verified. They are like somehow a big company or a big project, and the data they are sending is not the issue. Okay, like it's the API is most certainly not the issue, because if the API would be an issue, they would be out of business. Because in our case, like about the stock market, I don't think if there is $1 trillion business like a CFD broker, maybe not $1 trillion business, but $1 million business, there is a CFD broker, and suddenly the API makes problems and sends wrong data, and now someone accidentally bought a Tesla stock for 1 cent for a minute. So the API providers in that space, they are somehow stable, because otherwise they couldn't operate in that space on enterprise level. So APIs are not the problem. The Ethereum blockchain is not the problem, okay? It's the Ethereum blockchain. You could do everything on the Ethereum blockchain if there wouldn't be the problem with the fees. So what layer 2 is doing is basically like this. Okay, the API is verified. Um, the Oracle itself is a problem, because what the Oracle sends to the blockchain is not verified. If you only have one Oracle, you will have a problem that if that one Oracle is sending wrong data, it got the right data from the API, but it's now sending wrong data to the blockchain, you have a problem. So having more oracles somehow, if you have one oracle, you basically have 100% chance uh, like of having a problem. If you have two oracles, it's divided into two. If you have three, it's divided into three. But the problem is still there, because the data the oracle is sending is not verified. And layer 2 is basically solving this, because you have a layer 2 where you have a node system of oracles that are constantly verifying the prices sent from the API, and then you could you no matter what oracle you're like getting the data from, it's verified because they verified it before. And now you need, on Ethereum, you need to do it like this. You have an oracle, okay, it sends data that is unverified, and then you have another oracle that verifies it. But then you have a lag in trade, or somehow, yeah, maybe it takes like some time until the trade is executed. Yeah. This could be a potential way of doing it. And I think this is also like what I just said with two transactions. This would be the, uh, yeah, I like it. Can you use middle range of multiple oracles as if one exceed difference he gets out? Uh, this is basically what I just said with verifying, okay? And if it's like, look, if you have a node system outside of the Ethereum blockchain that verifies itself, it's layer 2. If you have a nodes inside of the Ethereum blockchain that verify, it's layer 1. So what you just said is just layer 2. No, I cannot elaborate about the big marketing idea. You were meeting with a broker a while back. Yeah, so there is a broker that could be interesting, but I think we can create the system like when we get a broker, okay? When we get a broker and we have a broker and we are doing business with him, and then we are basically like, look, we have the traditional financial world, and the traditional financial world has pros and cons, okay? And the decentralized world has also pros and cons. And if we're like getting a broker into that system, we're basically also getting the cons into the system. So maybe it's better to create a way without them. Would you ever consider lowering the DEA rewards so that you can extend the liquidity rewards beyond mid-Jan to Feb? Like, look, Beffelman, we are already lowering the DR rewards every few days since the community voted on doing so. So actually, at the beginning of the launch of DEA, it was meant to mint 160,000 DEA every month, and from that pay the rewards. So, and then we extended the period for almost 5 months, okay, by lowering the rewards. And from the time when the vaults are launched, we will have like 14 days periods, and later we will have 24-hour periods of fee payouts. Yes. So this is basically, if you read my blog from the first time when we talked about DEA, this is how it was planned. So we started launching we had a launch in October, okay? So then we mint 166k. Then in November we mint another 166k. Then in December we mint another 166k, and then in January we mint another 166k, and then we dropped that. Community voted against this, so now we are using that 100 initial K to distribute until the launch of the vaults, because from there on, the vaults and the fees of the system should take over the paying out of the staking. And then what I will also do is, look, when you're depositing money in the vaults, okay, so you're basically providing collateral. But in the moment, like when you provide it, that capital is basically dead. Okay, it's just lying around. So you will earn fees for doing so, okay? But maybe I know the crypto world, and maybe there is a way out there to earn more fees, okay? So for example, there could be another yield farming opportunity where you get more APY, okay? So what we can do is basically this, and we're already working on it, and I'm already working on creating some contracts for it. So we have the vaults, okay? And you invest into that yield farming opportunity through the vaults. And then you get your APY from there, and you maybe get your APY from the vaults, and then you will get the best APY on the market. So yeah, good. That's it for today. Let's make 5 minutes more of questions. You can write it down. I'm going somewhere quickly and then I will answer them. Okay, no more questions. That's good. Mm, what liquidity pools are not showing APY? Huh. What is going on with the? Okay, guys, I will check this now. Um, see you next week. See you next week. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the followers. I hope that, yeah. Thank you, Sakish. All follow this Twitter this Twitch channel. We will do something in the future where only Twitch subscribers can take part. Okay? So if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. It's better for you. Honestly, subscribe. Good. Great weekend. Bye bye.